Hallo miteinander, I'm Shikieiki and this is Touhou Koukishin. Last time, we collectively clamored over the numerous deadly golden knights we had to defeat. You can expect that we'll have to face roughly as many this time as well. I've got a fun fact to mention before anything else. On the day this video gets uploaded, our Let's Play of Touhou Koukishin turns 1 full year old. It's hard to argue if this is really a positive thing to celebrate, as it's mostly a testament to how rarely I get new episodes done. I feel most people would have been long finished by now had they taken on the same endeavor. While I'm very happy to be making these, one should always try to get their Let's Plays from ongoing to archived as quickly as they can, and so should I. Should've, could've, would've, it can't be changed. Circumstances just are the way they are. Of one thing though I am very sure, our curiously scarlet adventures will be over before their second birthday comes. Yeah, that is a very safe assumption to make. As we just saw with that one kappa, enemies can miraculously shoot through closed doors. It is nonsensical, but not unfair, for we can do just the same. Well, that was a spectacular squandering of a spell card. Don't do that, especially against a golden knight of all things. It wouldn't have happened were we still using Killing Doll as our spell card, but I don't feel that is an option anymore. That spell is just far too weak to make any kind of difference at this late point of the game anymore. By the way, you might have noticed that the Golden Knights carry large tower shields. I bet your instincts will have told you that they can block attacks in certain situations. They cannot, however, but they can use them for a close-range shield bash. You know, just like the tanking class in every single fantasy RPG nowadays. The Steel Knights don't wear any shields, yet they have an attack that is roughly the same. They just tackle you with their bodies, and that flings you around, often through the whole room. In the end, those tower shields aren't much more than fancy decoration. Who are we to judge if it makes the Golden Knights feel special? The easternmost chamber of the 13th sublevel can be one of the hairiest you've seen so far, if things don't work out as well as they did for us. We killed 2 of the 3 knights outright, but if you don't have a spell ready, you will have to face the whole bunch of them under the scourge of a gravity gem. Honestly, if you just want to get in there, snag away the treasure, and then flee immediately, that is perfectly okay. Sometimes you want to choose your battles if you can. Alright, that should almost be enough for the 13th sublevel. We were able to spot one final high-quality treasure from the other side here, so that was the very last thing to get before finally leaving. I'm not exactly sure, but if I remember correctly, B14 is a relatively unassuming floor compared to most. Please don't use this information to just scroll the video past it. Please, pretty please. If this is really so, I think this is a great opportunity to give you some behind the scenes information for this Let's Play. Some author's comments, if you want to call them that. Yeah, I think we are far enough into the game to go over something like that. One last interruption, it might have been a little bit paranoid to grab that health. But as I was saying, behind the scenes, I almost decided not to Let's Play Touhou Koukishin. Or rather, I should say, I only barely decided to Let's Play it. This actually says nothing negative of the game, but everything positive instead. See, after my LP of Blackthorn and its 20 parts, I set something of an iron rule for myself. it is that the absolute length of my LPs shouldn't be greater than that of Blackthorn. I would rather show quick games than any monumental ones. Obviously, Touhou Koukishin is a good chunk longer than Blackthorn, so I was really doubtful for a while. I wagered all my options and not only felt that Touhou Koukishin was the game I was most passionate about at the time, but also what I was sure would appeal to the most of you. It still wasn't easy to overcome this big mental barrier for it. In the end, I convinced myself to break my own promise, and I am glad I did. Moving on from that, the easternmost chamber of B14 is blocked off, which is very disappointing. Unless there is a secret I don't know of, an uncharacteristically obscure secret for this game, we will never enter that room. It practically does not exist for us, even though it's clearly visible on the minimap. This won't be the only time the labyrinth will tease us in this manner. Oh no. Another room with fast rotating mazes. I've got some more advice for these. It's not just about jumping over the lower mazes, but also making sure the higher ones don't get in the way. To avoid them, it is best to make your move after two mazes have crossed your starting point at roughly the same time. You'll still have close calls from time to time, but in the past, this method has helped me get through most of them unscathed. What else does the 14th sublevel have in store for us? More Makiri, that's for sure. I think we have gone over every foreign-sounding weapon we encountered so far. We have no right not to do the same for the Makiri, do we? The item description says it's from the people of the Ainu culture, who are from Japan, northern Japan I think. It is a long dagger or short sword of theirs, and Kamui is simply their language's variation of Kami, meaning god, deity, or divine spirit. I can imagine this talk about Ainu will be very obscure to most of you, but I can console you. They are somewhat obscure even in Japan. They are a very small ethnic group there, with traditions that aren't at all what you would think of when you think anything typically Japanese. This includes their looks. They are probably mistaken for foreigners there all the time, yet they are not. Back to game-related matters, here's another Golden Knight. And again, this is what you don't want to do against Golden Knights. Their worst attack is a series of lightning-fast stabs with their poleaxe. What that one just did. If you don't get out of that immediately, it will drain a lot of health. I find it interesting that the Golden Knights not only use a poleaxe, but that they use such a hybrid of a weapon in all ways imaginable. Be it stabbing, crushing, or swinging. They seem very experienced with their armaments, and I think it was good attention to detail from Ankakespa to give them such a diverse weapon as opposed to, say, a simple sword. That wouldn't be too memorable. Can we make it through another spiky gauntlet? So far we could, but we are not done with that room. We will have to return. I always had the feeling that the spiked maces did a percentile damage of your maximum health. A damage coming close to 25%. 743, yeah, we could be onto something. If so, Touhou Koukishin isn't the only game to do something like that. I remember wall, ceiling and floor spikes in some Igavanias functioning like that as well, ignoring defenses too. It would indeed be a little weird to be out-leveling the falling into spikes, basically beating a jumping puzzle with stats. The same could be said for the rotating maces. That should be everything of interest on the 14th sublevel. We will actually die if one of those maces hits us now. That is a scary thought. We will be leaving this area behind shortly, but first, we're going to be taking some detours. If we could just get a little bit of health back to loosen the overall tension, that would be so nice. We'll be in the 15th sublevel in just a few moments. The 15th. Back in the first episode of the Labyrinth, when I was being all secretive about how many floors this part of the game would have, who of you would have honestly guessed 15? At least 15 even. We still can't know when this will end. Of course, with the way I brought it up, most of you would have known that it couldn't be a small number. Yet over 15. Ha, we got our sweet revenge on that night. It was the one our spell card missed so badly, the one we embarrassed ourselves to, so we just left him standing there, went somewhere else and returned to use a new one on him. Non-linear areas such as these invite to spell card farming like no others. It is really a shame we didn't find any more healing on the way and had to resort to using B15's starting vase already. Let's hope this does not come back to bite us. While I admit B14 wasn't too amazing, B15 is very important again. The enemies are all now level 60, and the potential equipment they can give us is exquisite. The best stuff is of course only dropped by the more impactful enemies, but that's how it's always been. We'll also be getting more than enough duds. Duds like the Fang of the Apex Predator. That is one long name. In the past, when item names were this long or otherwise pompous, it was a clear sign that it was something interesting. The Fang of the Apex Predator is not. It is nothing. It has some attack power, but that's really it. The first time I found one, my eyes got all wide, just before I was totally disappointed. Why you gotta be like that, Trip Flag, and translate that garbage into something that sounds so big? There are several actually good weapons you can get at this point and onward. For example, the 7-star blade, the Dojikiri Yazusuna, and the Greed knife. There is also a selection of armors to be found, namely the Sagittarius form and the Aquarius Empire. Finally, I know of a few accessories around these parts, which are the Saturn Rutile and the U-Class Earth. These are all names that won't mean much to you now. When we actually come across some of this stuff, that's when we'll go into detail. Level 53, that is kind of nice. Not so nice that we have to set ourselves on fire because of it. Speaking of fire, up here is a very strange kind of it. The spewers of blue fire don't last as long as the normal ones, but they also reactivate in much shorter intervals. The blue fire spewers are by all means worse than any red ones. You will barely be able to jump over them while they're off, and only if you react at once. And that's what I like to see. The Saturn Rutile is a very well-rounded piece of equipment, strong in pretty much everything. The bonus hit points and additional attack power of it will be the most noticeable strengths, I wager. Coming over here for it was well worth it, even if it means having to get past the fire spewers again. Not only do the spewers of blue fire function differently, they also deal double damage, because blue fire is hotter? You know, I always heard that in my childhood, but I wonder if that's not some typical half knowledge. I remember the flame of Bunsen burners in chemistry class was always kind of bluish, and those are supposedly incredibly hot. Yet I find it weird. Isn't the color blue just a difference in light? Oh well, maybe Bill Nye the Science Guy sees this video. He'll tell silly me what is really up with blue fire. Or maybe one of you will apply a Bunsen burner to themselves and tell me if it was hotter than your average fire. By the way, please don't. While we're at the exit already, we can open this big pair of doors, but let us not leave just yet. We shouldn't go until I've given you some more recent public news about Touhou Koukishin, akin to those of its PlayStation 4 port. The game has received somewhat of an extraordinary honor. A little while ago, there was an event to celebrate Touhou's 20th anniversary, where Zun and a few other well-known members of the doujin scene played some Touhou games, official and unofficial. Featured among the latter were, for example, Genso Skydrift, and of course, Touhou Koukishin. Now I'm not sure who exactly was playing, as I can't follow the conversations in Japanese. It could have been Zun, Beat Mario, or maybe someone else who had the controller, but I do know one thing. They sucked at it. Hard. Now, I don't want to be the guy on the high horse here. In their defense, the gimmick of the event was to get absolutely wasted. It excuses their short attention span, which was the main reason they lost to Luna Child. Yes, they got decimated several times by the fairy who attacks by face planting. The fairy who trips not while walking, but while floating. That is a marvel. How do you even trip on air? Of course I have a certain pride when it comes to this game, but I shouldn't be elitist, and I am not. It matters little how well they played, but it matters greatly that they played. This special public exposure means not only that Touhou Koukishin is very presentable, but that it is representative of Touhou fan games as a whole. A prized breed if you want. With how much I sympathize with the game, this makes me very happy and excited. Now what are we doing here? I am trying desperately to get into the central chamber, but we cannot go there from the west, from the north, perhaps we can from the east? I can already spoil, no we cannot. We would have to encircle the whole map, so I just gave up and said, whatever. As I said, areas are getting complicated. Instead, let's just proceed to the exit, where we will make a cut and call it quits for today. B16 and beyond will have to wait for another time. I'm Shikieiki, this was Touhou Koukishin, and next time, royal goats wielding fiery swords. Bis bald!